The year was 1963. Gas was 30 cents a gallon, a brand new car was $2,000, and a fastback V8 muscle car had just hit the streets. It was the slick new Mercury Marauder. Those days may be gone, but definitely not forgotten. At least not by Mercury.
Hi, I'm Tommy Kendall, and that was your first look at the brand new 2003 Mercury Marauder. Mercury's first attempt to reconnect with its performance heritage. Today, we're going to put it to the test on the road and on the track to find out if this new offering lives up to its own legacy as one of the most powerful muscle cars to prowl the streets. We're also going to be talking to Mercury executive Elena Ford and auto racing icon Parnelli Jones. But first, I'm going to see how the Marauder does in the wide open expanses of the Mojave Desert. The lake beds are flat, but they are not billiard table smooth. There's a lot of chatter, little bumps caused by the cracks when it rains and dries out. And that's a really good test of the shock absorbers in terms of the real small chatter bumps, little shocks that you get on the freeway. How well does it dampen those things out? And we're cruising along here 60 miles an hour on what is effectively a dirt road, and it's very nice, very comfortable. It takes all the sharp edges off that. And one of the problems with a solid rear axle car, when you get into some of the chatter like you have here on the dry lake bed, most people won't encounter that very often, but the freeways with the concrete pads are not quite perfectly aligned. You get and some cars tend to the back end kind of does an axle hop, and I'm not feeling that. This is the ultimate car to just point towards Vegas and nail it. Now, another thing about this car that you can't miss is the size. Some people like small cars. I happen to like big cars. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5", and for a while there, it was looking like you weren't going to be able to find some sedans. So for people that like big, fast, four-door sedans, this has got it all. These are the exact same gauges that were in my Trans Am car. They're odometer gauges, but not just odometer. They're the ultra light. It's a super lightweight. I'm a little surprised to see that. You know, car business is so cost conscious these days. You know, kind of this carbon fiber look dash. In the early days, Henry Ford said, you can get this car in any color as long as it's black. Well, to the street rodder, what other color is there? And that's all this comes in, black for the purist. The neat thing about the Coyote dry lake beds, it's kind of like the California version of the Bonneville salt flats. It's just level and smooth as far as you can see. So it just begs for speed. The other thing it begs for is, remember that movie Strange Brew, where they're just driving along and they just have this long, long conversation and they're going 60 miles an hour or something like that, and they never look where they're going. That's what this is like for me, because, you know, it just, I've always wanted to do that. The topography is much like that seen in the cult classic, The Vanishing Point.
Don't go away. I'm headed to the Palmdale drag strip, where legendary race car driver Parnelli Jones is going to help us take this car to the limit. So keep your motor running. The Speed Channel test drive will be right back. Now, this new Marauder, what did you think when you first heard about it?
I was real skeptical, actually. You know, after driving it, I realized they really had something. This particular car really has tremendous acceleration, and it has a 355 rear axle with a limited slip differential, and with that 4-speed automatic, I mean, it really gets off the line. And not only does it accelerate quite well, it certainly stops well. It's got great big disc brakes on it, really can get on the brakes.
And you could actually race this one down Pikes Peak, unlike the old one, right?
You got that right, yeah.
Now, the new Marauder, if you had to pick one thing you like the best, what would it be?
I think it's the performance. I mean, it has tremendous acceleration, and of course with the electronics that they have today, I mean, this thing really performs.
I've never heard a race car driver say a car had enough power, but for everyday use, will this get the job done?
Well, it certainly will, especially in my book, because I like a comfortable sedan like this, especially with a lot of power. It makes it a lot of fun to drive.
You don't strike me as a front-wheel drive kind of guy. You like the rear-wheel drive in this car?
Oh, I certainly do. I think most race drivers would like a rear-wheel drive car. Front-wheel drive cars just don't appeal to me that much.
Now, you've never done a burnout before, have you?
Oh, never.
Well, it's been 40 years since you've raced a Marauder. You ready to get back in the saddle?
Yeah. Are you man enough to drive that 63?
All right, tough guy. Well, that was a good warm-up, but what do you say we head over to Willow Springs, see how she does on a road course?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Well, don't go away, because Parnelli and I are headed to Willow Springs Raceway to give the new Marauder a real workout when the Speed Channel test drive continues. At California's Willow Springs Raceway with famed Mercury driver Parnelli Jones. We just went head-to-head at the Palmdale Dragway, but sometimes there's more to life than speed. Sometimes there's curves. Parnelli didn't waste any time taking it to the track. Let's check in with him now and see how this new ride feels.
Now we're approaching turn 1, and you have to use the brakes a little bit here, but this car really has excellent brakes, which gives you a lot of security going in the corner. We're making these turns very smoothly and carrying a lot of speed through them. One thing about this engine, it's a 4.6 liter dual overhead cam engine. It puts out a lot of power. It has 302 horsepower and 318 pounds of torque, which gives it a lot of acceleration coming out of the turns. It also has a 4-speed transmission with a high rev torque converter. And that also, gives a chance to keep the RPM up. With the limited slip in the rear end with the 355 axle, I mean, it makes it a real high-performance vehicle. One thing I like about this car, it has a lot of power, and a lot of performance, but it also is really comfortable. It's a great feel, which really makes it enjoyable. Ow.
Mercury describes this car as fast, black, and cool. After running it on the track, what do you think?
I'm going to tell you, this Marauder is really a lot of fun to drive. I mean, I was going through turn 2 over there, and what I thought was a maximum speed like that, and it was so comfortable that I started jacking the steering wheel back and forth, and I mean, it just handles fabulous. With all this horsepower that this thing has, I mean, I'm impressed with the way it handles.
So the muscle cars of days gone by that just went in a straight line, it's a whole new ball game now.
It certainly is, and not only that, I mean, in braking, unbelievable. The car stays real stable through the turns, and you can drive it really deep into the corners. I mean, the braking is fabulous.
Let's throw a cage in this baby and head for the peak.
I'm thinking about it.
Parnelli, thanks for joining us.
Wow, I think I ought to have one of these in my garage.
I'll second that. Don't go away. We're about to throw it into overdrive with car and driver's Barry Winfield when the Speed Channel test drive continues.